Hey, yo, Fro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And if you are on YouTube, make sure you enable notifications so you get the opportunity to grab our latest episodes as they go live. And while you're at it, if you are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game every single year, stop immediately and go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create your own wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation from the ground up, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Fro Wrestling Podcast family and you want to get your name in the shoutouts like my great buddy, my good friend Harold in St. Louis. Harold, how are you tonight? Always great. Had a great week of talking with Harold. Harold's got some exciting things coming your way very soon. Harold is now, he has been such a loyal contributor to the Fro Wrestling Podcast. I wanted to do something with Harold, something big. And so Harold has offered, he's going to be giving us some new episodes where he's going to review some of the most important moments that you can find on the Global Wrestling Network. We're going to call it Harold's Retro Review. And he is going to go through episodes of the Global Wrestling Network and give you an idea of what there is to look for if you have not been a long-term Impact Wrestling, TNA, NWA TNA, whatever you want to call it. If you haven't been a fan of the organization from its beginnings, Harold is going to help you get some enlightenment about what a great product they have always had and what you should be looking for on the Global Wrestling Network if you are not already a subscriber. For everybody else who wants to get their names in those shout-outs and get on board with people like Harold, stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/Fro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. For the month of March, anyone who contributes $25 to the Fro Wrestling Podcast will co-host an episode of Going Live with me. And for our $10 a month contributors, you're going to be entered into a drawing for a winner to also co-host an episode of Going Live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this loaded live episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. It's been a crazy week, a lot of things going on. We have so much to get to. Do not forget, tonight at midnight, I'm shutting down the votes. We are in the final four of the greatest superstar of the Monday Night Wars tournament. You need to get to Fro Wrestling right now and cast your vote. I need to see. You guys have done an amazing job fantasy booking this entire tournament. I'm very, very curious to see who's going to walk out as the champion of this tournament offering. We have another one coming up right after this tournament ends. We have our next tournament concept coming. So, by all means, get in there, get looking at it, get your votes in there so we can get them tabulated. If you come up with ideas, questions, comments, concerns, anything you want to address while the Fro Wrestling Podcast is live, go to either the Spreaker function. If you go to Spreaker.com and look up the Fro Wrestling Podcast, go to FroWrestling.com and pull up the podcast. Any of those outlets, there is a live chat feature right there in the menu bar. You can put your comments into their chat function, and I can see what you have to say and get you into the episode. And one of the things I'm begging you to do, put your name with your comments. People, I want to give you the shout out, you the recognition for the amazing questions that you always throw me and the contributions that our fans are to this show. You guys are amazing, so get the credit for it. You guys are the ones giving me all these great questions. Take credit for it. I got so many great responses this week to different things that were in the news, but I got very few people giving me their names. As a matter of fact, I got nobody who gave me their name this week, which is so hard. But I digress. If you want to get questions in tonight, use the chat function. If you think of something throughout the week that we have not addressed here, or if you have a suggestion, something you really want me to talk about, you can go and call into the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line 267-642-1160, where you can get a talk-to-text service, which you can give them your questions, give them anything you want to say. It'll take what you say, convert it into a text message, and send it to me so that I can get you into the next episode, your questions into the next episode. So by all means, do that. We would love to have you. If you are new to the Fro Wrestling Podcast and you've never been on one of our episodes before, don't hesitate. Shoot over to our webpage, our homepage at www.frowrestling.com, where you can get a preview of all the topics coming to the most recent episode of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. It's a great way where you can even come up with your questions and your comments that you'd like for us to address as we go through the show. If you see a story you haven't seen addressed in the upcoming topics, if there's something you think is just interesting that no one else is talking about, give it to us. Let us see it. And one last thing. Thank you so much to the 300 new people, new viewers, new subscribers to the Pro Wrestling Podcast in the various media platforms that our show goes out to, who have also started reading the articles on Infro's Corner at ProWrestling.com. Top of the page, click Infro's Corner, where you will see the editorial pieces that I've been putting out. As some of you may know, I'm a writer for TSJ Sports. That's THA SportsJunkies101.com is a great website for all the latest news and rumors in the world of professional wrestling. But as a podcaster myself and having my own site for this, I wanted to share my editorial pieces with you guys directly. Sometimes the server we use for TSJ is a little more restricted than my own server is, so I give you guys unfiltered, uncut editorial pieces to review. By all means, check them out. We had one last week about the WWE's issues with The Undertaker. Go read it. It's a great article. And that's not just because I wrote it. It's because I've gotten huge traffic from it, and people are giving me great comments. About the Intercontinental Quandary in WWE heading into WrestleMania season. I have a new article coming out later this week about 15 past, present wrestlers in the world of professional wrestling who have been overlooked and underused and underappreciated. So get into that website, get into Infro's Corner, and check out those articles. I would love to get some feedback from you guys about what you think about the product that I'm putting out there for you. That way, if it needs improvement, I get your feedback. If you love it, let me know. I want to know what you think, because you guys are the ones, you're the amazing audience that makes this podcast worth it. You guys are awesome. Speaking of awesome things, I got to tell you guys, last night, Friday night, big show, Ring of Honor's 16th anniversary show. This is my headline moment for the week because, first off, if you are a Ring of Honor fan, if you did not see the 16th anniversary show, you missed out. Because it was loaded, stacked, top to bottom. New tag team champions crown. New 6-man tag team champions crown. A impromptu television championship match was booked. Retaining the championship was Kenny King. And the big moment of the night is as the impromptu Ring of Honor television championship match draws to a close, the Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion Austin Aries invaded the Ring of Honor 16th anniversary show, bringing all his championships, the Defiant title, the Impact title, bringing all his championships from around the world to Ring of Honor. If you don't remember, Austin Aries does not have an exclusive contract with Impact Wrestling. He is free to go where he chooses. Now, it's been already put out there that he let Impact Wrestling know he was going to make an appearance at Ring of Honor. But he was there for a reason, to challenge the current Ring of Honor television champion to a match, because that is one championship he has never put around his waist. That is his goal. I would love to see some cross-promotional stuff between these two companies. I think it could only foster better business for both of them. And the beautiful thing about this is there's been so much negative press around Impact Wrestling for the last 2 to 3 years, with all the shifts and management changes and people buying in and being eliminated and all these other things. They never seem to get, at Impact Wrestling at least, any kudos for what they do. And same thing with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor's got this great partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and everybody seems to love that. Well, here's an opportunity to partner with Impact Wrestling, who also has a partnership with AAA and Lucha Underground and Crash Wrestling and all these other promotions. We really do have an opportunity to see amazing wrestling action from stars from multiple promotions come together and make wrestling what it should be. Dream matches, can't miss television, can't miss programming, instead of the same old fodder and nonsense we see every single week on a WWE show. I'm not knocking WWE for not having a great show. They do, but when you see the same match 400 times in a row, you get a little bored of it. This is an opportunity to see something different. Austin Aries coming in and challenging for the Ring of Honor Television Championship. I would love to see it. To be perfectly honest with you, I'd like to see him appear in New Japan Pro Wrestling and challenge for the Intercontinental Championship there. I think that would be a phenomenal opportunity. So, that is our lead-in story. Check that out, I'm sure, over the next couple weeks on Access Television when they play the episodes of Ring of Honor. I'm sure you'll get an opportunity to see what went down. Check that out. It is amazing. Other news this week, an update on Brock Lesnar's WWE future. People have talked about this for over a year now. When does his contract expire? What are they going to do? What are the plans, short-term, long-term? We have known for a year that Brock was going to go into WrestleMania this year as Universal Champion, being made to look unbeatable, and that he was going to get challenged by Roman Reigns, who also was going to be built to a crescendo where he couldn't be beaten. And at the show, we're already expecting that Brock Lesnar will lose the Universal Championship to Roman Reigns. And then Roman Reigns will go on his way being the face of the company, even though we've all voiced our displeasure with that. And Brock Lesnar would ride off into the sunset. Well, things have gotten complicated. First off, they talked for months now about a clause in his contract that could keep him in WWE through August. So that's one thing to consider. We have Brock Lesnar during the last pay-per-view not being at the show and instead being in the same town, hanging out with and wearing a t-shirt supporting UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. It's amazing how many times people say UFC and don't realize that those letters actually stand for something. Ultimate Fighting Championships. Brock Lesnar is clearly negotiating with Dana White for a return to the Octagon. But this week it was made very clear that Brock Lesnar, one, his dates on his current contract have pretty much been used up. So he's not a free agent, but he sort of is. And you have to work out a new deal with him. This is the same problem they've had more than once with Brock Lesnar. I don't know why somebody in WWE can't get a handle on contracts and handle these things far ahead of time. And if you got a wrestler who's just negotiating with other people and he's trying to leverage for more money and this and that, Brock Lesnar got paid $5 million last year for like 5 appearances last year. It wasn't literally 5, but it wasn't near something like a Seth Rollins or a Dean Ambrose or a Roman Reigns. And I'll defend Roman Reigns when I say that. Roman Reigns is at every show he can be and gets paid significantly less than Brock Lesnar. The guy who's getting crammed down your throat to be the face of the company gets paid significantly less than the Universal Champion who shows up whenever he wants to, because he has limited dates on his contract, because he's not passionate about the wrestling business. Well, guess what? For all the people who say Brock Lesnar is not passionate, he has to have some passion, because this week it was announced that he is asking to come back to WWE. He wants to return to WWE. Now, one of the holdups may be that it sounds like he wants to be non-exclusive so he can also fight in UFC. And if you're WWE, what are you waiting for? Bobby Lashley did this in Impact Wrestling using that and Bellator at the same time and did an amazing job. So there's no reason to think Brock Lesnar couldn't do the same, and Brock is a much more established and more successful mixed martial artist than Bobby Lashley is, at least currently. I understand Bobby Lashley has had a phenomenal MMA career. Hopefully it leads to bigger things in the future, but for now, Brock Lesnar's the man. He's the story. By the way, before I go 1 second further, because I hate missing anything, I see that my buddy John the Sports Guy is checking in from Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania tonight. He's on the chat line. How you doing, John? Love seeing him here, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I'm so thankful for John tonight because I know that he is at the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance show that is going on right now in Gilbertsville. You guys know that I like to be at those shows, but I was not able to be there tonight. Some familial responsibilities. But John's there. He's been sending me pictures tonight, letting me know what's happening. One of my favorite wrestlers in the brand, a guy named Ty Reno, who blew his ACL late last year, is back tonight, and he was in the ring, and I'm thrilled to hear that. Hopefully John gets a moment. You can stop by and tell him the podcast guy sends his love and well wishes, and congrats on getting back in the ring. John, please do that for me. He says he's well too. Fantastic. And if you've never been to one of their shows, if you live in southeastern Pennsylvania, get to a WWWA show. They are awesome. Great action, great excitement, dirt cheap. I got to be honest, they are dirt cheap, great show for very little money and very personable, very crowd interactive. You can meet any and everybody on the card at their intermission and really have a good time getting to know the talents on a personal level. So check that out. Now, back to the news though. A huge former WWE and current Impact Wrestling star was spotted at Titan Tower this week. This week, Alberto El Patron, who is under contract with Impact Wrestling until April, was at Titan Tower apparently doing some voiceover work for a project related to Rey Mysterio. So clearly, some of the tension between the parties has gotten a little bit less contentious, and now the word is that Vince McMahon would like to bring Alberto El Patron back to the company. I don't know how many times you bring a guy back when he leaves under shady circumstances, but Vince, it's cliche, but he does what's best for business. Now, the reality is Alberto has made it clear many times that he is not interested in staying in the ring for a significantly longer period of time. I believe he maybe has 2 to 3 years is what he keeps saying, and I think he will want to ride off into the sunset. The guy doesn't want to be wrestling till he's 60. You know, that's not his goal. He's been done very well for himself. He's taken care of his money and his personal finances. He's involved in a lot of outside ventures that are very successful. So he doesn't have to go back to WWE. I'm curious to see what happens and if he does make a return to the company and how he's used if he does it. Remember, when he left WWE, he had tons of choice words for people like Triple H. He's clearly not a fan of Triple H's. And then what would happen with his former relationship and former engagement to Paige? One of the reasons that they split up was because her schedule with WWE was going to be too rigorous and he would not have been able to see her because he's no longer with the company. Now, if he's back in the company, now I know she's gone on, she has a rock and roll boyfriend now. She's on tour with the band right now. But what would happen? You know that has to create some kind of strange, funky dynamic going on. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I actually hope he comes back. I'm a fan of Alberto El Patron, at least his work in the ring. Don't know how I feel about him as a person, but his work in the ring is fantastic. So I'm really hoping that he comes back. Now, I don't think the fans are hoping, speaking of Brock, that Brock comes back. So last weekend, he had his house show match with a returning Kane, and he gets to the ring and he squashes Kane in like 35 seconds. The people were livid. It's very clear that we're heading into a period of time where Brock is either out of dates on his contract, may not be signing again, and he's just doing whatever he has to do to fill his contractual obligations for matches that are already booked, and fans are tired of that. I'm feeling like this is reminiscent of WrestleMania 20, when everybody knew that Brock Lesnar and Goldberg were both had their contracts up and they were booing them out of the building. That's what this feels like. They need to fix the Brock situation immediately. Absolutely immediately. Chris Jericho, on the other hand, this guy... Look, Chris Jericho is easily in my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time, and I was really excited to hear that he was going to go to New Japan. He was doing his thing with Kenny Omega. Shocked the wrestling world, was easily the most talked about and clearly one of the biggest matches of the year. Then he goes on after that match, after the loss to Kenny Omega, and he sets up the perfect feud with Tetsuya Naito, who is one of the biggest stars in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we were all expecting Chris Jericho to face Naito at the special at Long Beach in California when they come back for this year's show. Unfortunately, now it's sounding like Chris Jericho is done with New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is so frustrating. Jericho had easily one of the most important segments in the history of the business, or at least in recent history, when he decided to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling and do the whole angle with Kenny Omega. I don't even know if Chris Jericho realized how huge this opportunity was. And now he had a chance to work with somebody he's never worked with before, and that's going to go and be wasted because New Japan, for some reason, has not negotiated for him to stay. They set up the match, they get everything going, everything looks like it was good on paper, and now it's not happening. And I don't know how that happens. I don't know how you have a guy run out on your New Beginning show and attack one of your major stars and then go 2 months with no discussion and suddenly it's over. But when you go onto Chris Jericho's Twitter account and someone directly asked him about that situation, he straight up told everybody, yep, not happening. He's done. And he would have liked to. So... a major miss for New Japan. Maybe they work something out later, but as of right now, Chris Jericho is done with New Japan Pro Wrestling without even having his match with Naito. Now, Kenny Omega is booked for the Cruise of Honor, so Kenny Omega will be at the show that Chris Jericho is promoting on his Chris Jericho Cruise, which, by the way, if you go to frowrestling.com, the homepage of the Fro Wrestling Podcast, you can book your reservation for the cruise. The link is in the middle of the page. Check it out. Click on it. There are tons of slots still available. Reserve your spot now. You can get in for as little as $579 for the full cruise, all-inclusive, minus your alcoholic beverages. So, keep that in mind. But just get yourself down there, get on the boat, and have a great time, and for a great price with nonstop wrestling action, nonstop rock and roll action, and just beautiful scenery. So check that out. But Chris Jericho, hopefully, on that cruise, will get the opportunity to work with Kenny Omega or potentially Tetsuya Naito outside of the New Japan banner. Because I think now, if you're a diehard Chris Jericho fan, that's something you really want to see. You feel like you have to see. So we'll have to see where they go from there. The Bar, surprisingly to me, the Bar is one of my favorite topics to discuss tonight. Sheamus and Cesaro have pretty much beaten everybody in WWE that there is to talk about. I was a little surprised and really disappointed that they had them squash the Revival so quickly on Monday Night Raw, but what they did do is issue an open challenge for WrestleMania. Now, this presents a lot of very strange possibilities. So, I know that the big word this week was that Jeff Hardy has been medically cleared in time for WrestleMania. So, there is a possibility that Jeff Hardy would come in as Brother Nero and team with Woken Matt Hardy to challenge the Bar for the Tag Team Championship. However, that was done last year. The Hardys returned and took the titles from the Bar. Like, I don't want to see that again. You know, I love seeing the two together. Don't get me wrong. I'm fine with them returning, but I don't want to see them be the ones to challenge for the tag titles. Now, an alternative possibility that has been put out there is that when they return, that they would pair up Matt Hardy with Bray Wyatt and have the two of them challenge the Bar. That actually somewhat intrigues me, only because I don't know what the heck they're doing with either one of those characters if they don't give them something of substance to do. The Tag Team Championship, despite the fact that it's got a long lineage and it's prestigious and this and that, has often been like a placeholder for World Championship level contenders when you don't know what to do because you're crowded at the top of the card. Think about it. Sheamus is a multi-time world champion. Cesaro probably should have been. Seth Rollins, Tag Team Champion earlier this year. Dean Ambrose, Champion earlier this year. A lot of these guys, you know, they weren't in the World Championship picture yet, or still aren't, some of them. And you needed to do something of substance with them, so the Tag Team Championship became that opportunity. This would be giving Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt something to be meaningful with. The Tag Team Championship would give them an opportunity to really have some strange dialogue back and forth as they toured the country defending the championship. I'm curious to see if that becomes the plan. However, what makes this conversation even more fantastic to me is that you have now got tag teams from promotions around the world who are challenging the Bar for that spot. Namely, the Young Bucks, who already made it clear on Twitter that they have that date free. Now, I know they're under contract to Ring of Honor until 2019, and it can't possibly happen, but... And, you know, somebody said, oh, they got to wrestle the night before. I get all that, but the Hardys wrestled the night before last year and came out at WrestleMania and stole the show. If you could work out a deal with Ring of Honor, absolutely. Take professional wrestling to a whole new stratosphere. We opened up the show tonight talking about how big a deal it is that Austin Aries is going to going to Ring of Honor Wrestling to challenge for the Ring of Honor television title. Think about how big it would be for the Ring of Honor tag team of the Young Bucks to show up at the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania, and challenge the Bar for the WWE Tag Team Championship. And more importantly, can you imagine if they won? Think about what the kind of deal that WWE and Ring of Honor could do. Think about the possibilities if they worked out a deal. Now, they have had negotiations only this year because when Bubba Ray Dudley was brought in to be a member of the Hall of Fame, there had to be negotiations with Ring of Honor to allow him to do that. He's under contract. So clearly WWE and Ring of Honor get along. So I don't see why this is an impossibility like some people do. The other tag team that fascinates me, and there's a lot of teams that have thrown out a challenge. Don't get me wrong. You know, Paul Ellering was out there saying that, you know, that his tag team wanted the opportunity, and the Undisputed Era want the opportunity, and all these other teams want the opportunity. But the team that I'm actually the most fascinated with is the Killer Elite Squad. When you have Vance Archer come out and put out a post on Twitter also wanting to step up and take that opportunity to face the Bar, I would give anything to see the Killer Elite Squad in WWE all the time. They absolutely dropped the ball with Harry Smith or Davey Boy Smith Jr., whatever you want to call him. And they also dropped the ball with Vance Archer when he was there, and it was just miserable. This would be a great opportunity to bring them back, almost like Gallows and Anderson. Gallows was there before, and they dropped the ball with him too. He left for a few years, came back, and became a major player for WWE. Maybe not in the main event picture, but he fills a very important role. And the Killer Elite Squad would be a great addition to the WWE roster. I don't know what their contract status is with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but it's something I would at least visit and discuss, try to figure out. That's just my opinion. Fastlane. Before we get into all the tertiary news, Fastlane's betting odds are out there, and this is the part of the show where I'm going to give you my predictions as we go through the betting odds. So, starting at the bottom of the card, I don't want to call it that because it sounds so disrespectful, but I'm reading it in the order that it appears on the betting odds website. So, Becky Lynch and Naomi are going to be taking on Natalya and Carmella. Right now, Becky Lynch and Naomi are the odds-on favorites to defeat Natalya and Carmella. However, the odds are not so drastically out of whack that you couldn't see a shake-up there. Becky Lynch and Naomi are a minus 150 favorite over Natalya and Carmella as a plus 110. You've got Shinsuke Nakamura as a minus 800 odds-on favorite to defeat Rusev, who's a plus 450. What that means is you have to bet $800 to win $100 on Shinsuke Nakamura. You could bet $100 and win $450 if Rusev were to win. By the way, my prediction, Becky Lynch and Naomi will defeat Natalya and Carmella because they're going to continue to bury Carmella until she finally cashes in that worthless briefcase, because we already know she's not carrying either brand's championship anytime soon. In the Shinsuke Nakamura match, obviously you can't have the Royal Rumble winner lose to Rusev Day, so Nakamura will come out on top in that match as well. For the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, the Usos are the favorites right now at a minus 175 over the New Day at plus 125, but those odds are very, very close. Would not be surprised to see the New Day walk out as the tag team champions, especially considering the news last year that the WWE wants them to go down in history as the greatest tag team of all time, and the only way to do that is to get them more reigns as the tag team champions. You got to get that started somewhere. The Usos and the New Day have had so many great matches over the last year. This is going to be just another one. So we'll have to keep our eyes on that match. The biggest one that is a toss-up right now is the United States Championship. Bobby Roode, the champion, a minus 120 versus Randy Orton, who is also a minus 120. That means it is a pick-em match. You have to bet $120 to win $100 for either wrestler to win. My prediction, I don't see you burying Bobby Roode quite yet. However, Randy Orton has never held the United States Championship. This would complete his Grand Slam, and for that reason, no, I'm not changing. Bobby Roode is going to walk out the United States Champion. He has to stay strong because one of these days he's going to be a World Championship contender, and the only way you do that is to put him in the ring and have him defeat people like Randy Orton. For the SmackDown Women's Championship, Charlotte Flair, an insane minus 1,000 favorite, meaning you got to bet $1,000 to win $100 over Ruby Riott, the plus 500 favorite. I would not be surprised if they pulled a swerve here and switched the title just to help Vegas get some money back from all these other matches, but my prediction is Charlotte Flair will come out on top because she's got to be champion for Asuka to go to SmackDown and challenge her for the Women's Championship, allowing Alexa Bliss to defend the Women's Championship on Raw against Nia Jax. In the main event, the WWE Championship SixPack Challenge, Dolph Ziggler is a plus 1,200. He is the furthest odds of winning versus Baron Corbin, the plus 1,000 odds, the second worst odds in the match. Kevin Owens is a plus 900, followed by Sami Zayn at a plus 850. John Cena is a plus 750, but the WWE champion AJ Styles is a minus 800 favorite. Heavy favorite to retain the WWE Championship in a six-pack challenge and go on to WrestleMania to face Shinsuke Nakamura for the championship. My prediction in this match, it should be no surprise, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura is a match that the wrestling world has to see in a WWE WrestleMania ring. I would not, if I was Vince, take one chance that one of these guys gets injured over the next 12 months and can't do the match next year. I would get the match done now. I predict AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura win their matches at Fastlane and go on to WrestleMania to put on an absolute clinic when it comes to wrestling mat psychology. It is the match of the year candidate that I am dying to see at WrestleMania. So, and I'm just going to throw out the rest of the tertiary news, the stuff that has just been flooding my email and flooding everything else. WWE is talking right now about opening another performance center potentially in the Middle East to help foster talents that they're finding in places like Qatar and Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, places like that, India, Burma, places where they haven't typically or historically brought a lot of talent out of. but that there is a rich tradition of athletics and that they have an opportunity to really find some amazing people and bring them to the main roster and expand the brand. You know that they're dying to have a much bigger presence in the Indian market. With that many people, that many fans there, I think it makes a lot of sense. We'll have to wait and see. There are no concrete plans in place at this time, but that does not mean that they're not going to make a move to get another performance center opened up over there. The WrestleMania plans for the Intercontinental Championship, are they set in stone? It sounds like they are not. Right now, as you know, after coming out of Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins will take on Finn Balor, who will take on The Miz, but that has nothing to do with whether or not the plans are set. There are a few other people who could be added to the equation, including Elias and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman right now has no plans for Mania, and I don't anticipate he's going to have any. They're really concerned about this report coming out about Roman Reigns. They're really concerned about whether or not the Brock Lesnar situation is going to get resolved. And with all those things factoring in, Braun Strowman is the most organically grown and crowd-accepted talent in the company right now. No one, maybe not even Daniel Bryan, could bring the kind of reaction that Braun would bring if he walked to the ring for the Universal Championship match and walked out as champion. And that is not out of the realm of possibility because he does not have a match on the card. However, he is still being discussed potentially being added to the WrestleMania Intercontinental Championship match. We'll have to wait and see. I am hoping they don't do that. We've had too many of these 4, 5, 6-man matches. Unless they're going to make it a ladder match, I'm okay with that. However, as I've said previously, I think they should hold off on that and give a ladder match to the cruiserweights and get them a more prominent role in the show. But we'll have to wait and see. The All-In event venue city has been revealed. They're going to Chicago, and everybody has been wondering, does this mean that CM Punk is, locked in? Is he going to be a part of the show? No one knows, and I don't suspect anyone's going to talk about it until the night of the show, if and when he walks through the curtain and the place explodes to hear CM Punk come out and perform at least one last time. I really do hope that the guy finds a way to resolve his issues with WWE and comes back and does it the right way at some point. They always say time heals all wounds. I really hope that time gets to heal him because CM Punk, I saw an article or a meme posted on Facebook the other day of all the dream matches that Punk leaving WWE left on the table, like CM Punk versus AJ Styles, versus Kevin Owens, versus Sami Zayn, versus Shinsuke Nakamura, versus Samoa Joe. All those matches should have taken place in WWE had WWE and CM Punk communicated more and negotiated out and helped through all the problems they were having. Hopefully the All-In event in Chicago will have that opportunity for wrestling fans to see him one more time, but I'm really hoping he finds a way back to WWE. The big injury news this week is in NXT, where Bobby Fish has an ACL injury. He's going to be out of action for up to 6 months. I think the biggest person who's hurt by this is Adam Cole, because Adam Cole was in line to get a major push, and now he's going to have to fill in under the Freebird rule with the Undisputed Era as the tag team champions, especially at the NXT TakeOver event right before WrestleMania, where at the same show, Adam Cole is already scheduled to take on 5 other competitors, including Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, Ricochet, EC3. These guys are all going to, and Velveteen Dream, they're all going to go at it for the brand new created NXT North American Championship, another championship being added to NXT. He's not the only one. This week we heard that the WWE is talking about adding Cruiserweight Tag Team Championships for the 205 Live brand after WrestleMania. WWE's just going championship crazy. I actually love that. I know some people think, you don't need all these titles, but the reality is when you have a championship match, at least it gives the fans something to be invested in. But it'll be curious to see how they handle the Bobby Fish injury situation with the NXT Tag Team Championship. I think that obviously there's a chance that they transition the titles off of them, but who do you put them on? At the pay-per-view, you're going to have the Authors of Pain wrestling, and you're going to have like a really strange combination of Pete Dunne, who's the current WWE United Kingdom champion, and he's going to get an opportunity. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on who he's teaming with. How the heck do I forget that? Anyways, they're like hodgepodge thrown together tag team. Who are you going to put the titles on at TakeOver? It doesn't make any sense. It'll be the final match in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which also is coming back. They've already filmed all the matches leading up to the final. I won't spoil any of that for you. But I'm curious to see how they're going to handle this Bobby Fish issue. That's a huge loss. WWE has announced they are going to hold an event at a 100,000 seat arena in Australia called the MCG Arena. They have been there before, the Global Warning Tour back in 2002. They haven't been back since. This would be amazing if WWE could pull 100,000 people to an arena. That would be just huge news, and it would really be inspiring for future events overseas for WWE. They don't do a lot of pay-per-views elsewhere. This is a great opportunity to expand that. The big injury that everybody's been talking about is Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio blows out his bicep. It's a grade 1 bicep tear. Not a serious, big-time, 10-month, injury, but it is clearly an injury that will affect his ability to participate and will keep him out of the ring for some time. And the issue is they were talking about whether or not he's going to be able to face John Cena at WrestleMania. And now that match is in doubt. There's a possibility that we have another issue. This is one of those articles that I talked to you guys about at the onset of the show. If you go to Infro's Corner at ProWrestling.com, I talk about how WWE fails to plan. So now this is their plan to fail. They wanted John Cena and The Undertaker. That didn't work. They want John Cena and Rey Mysterio. Now that's not going to work. And the problem is, their plan never created any other talents. Right now on the roster, they're on John Cena's level. Samoa Joe possibly could be the guy. But even he hasn't been cleared medically to perform. So, what do you do with John Cena now? John Cena was out on the Today Show talking about how he doesn't mind if he misses the show. That's a problem. John Cena is one of your biggest merchandise sellers. The biggest show of the year. You better be there. In addition, I saw that he auditioned to be the new Steve for Blue's Clues with Nickelodeon this week. I'm not even going to grace that with any more conversation. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's a professional wrestler and a not so great Hollywood actor. Let's focus on the wrestling product until you're ready to retire. And when you retire, leave. Okay? I happen to like John Cena and I like his work quite a bit, but I'm tired of people bouncing in and out because what is that? What kind of legacy is that to leave? It started with The Rock. It's now went on with John Cena, who used to give The Rock a hard time. He used to give The Rock a hard time for doing the same thing he's doing now. What a hypocrite. But whatever. Other news, I'm going to move on because I got so many other things to cover and we're running out of time, people. The Rich Swann situation, he's gone from WWE. Well, now apparently he's taken his last sets of bookings and he is walking away from the professional wrestling industry. He said he wants to go in another direction and he's going to be retiring at the end of his bookings. It's amazing that he went from being on the cusp of being crowned the Cruiserweight champion and being in a major feud with Enzo prior to Enzo getting canned, and now he's talking about retirement. It's almost like his experience in WWE at the end just totally soured his experience. I know he was complaining about some negotiations with Combat Zone Wrestling. I don't know what that's all about. It's really not my business. But what I'm thinking is this guy is having a tough time getting booked because of the domestic violence possibility. And he's upset because he feels that he's an innocent man. Well, just because your wife doesn't press charges doesn't mean the incident didn't take place, especially when there's eyewitnesses, and that's something that a lot of companies don't want to associate themselves with, and he needs to understand that. Want to cover quickly the newest inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is Hillbilly Jim, and the reason I'm putting this so far down the list is because, quite frankly, I'm getting really tired of two things. One, WWE not having a brick-and-mortar Hall of Fame. What kind of Hall of Fame doesn't have a hall? I'm just saying. There is a Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. It's located in Texas. You can go and see it. And they've got memorabilia out the yin-yang. And all the legends come out every year in May for their big shows where they induct their newest inductees. If you want to go to a real Hall of Fame, go there. WWE is wasting this Hall of Fame stuff. It's a club where they pick who gets in, not based on anything other than their own bias when they're deciding who they want to let in. And the reason I'm ranting about this is when you look at the Hall of Fame, we're going to have Hillbilly Jim in the Hall of Fame, and I like Hillbilly Jim. I always liked the Don't Go Messing with the Country Boy, and I love seeing him and Uncle Elmer and Cousin Junior and all these guys wrestle. I thought that was great. Here's the problem. They wrestled for a blink of an eye period of time. He had a match of WrestleMania 3 where he gets squashed by King Kong Bundy and a couple midgets. What of substance did Hillbilly Jim do in the ring that justifies a Hall of Fame induction? He has a win over Andre the Giant when he was filling in for Big John Studd when Studd left the WWE back in 1989. I guess that gets you into the Hall of Fame, but the reality is Hillbilly Jim didn't do anything in the ring. He did less than Koko Beware, and I have a problem with Koko Beware being in the Hall of Fame. Why is Koko Beware in there? So here's why I get frustrated. There are countless guys who are in the Hall of Fame who didn't do anything that warrants that kind of honor before countless others who do deserve that honor. When you have people who have given everything they've got to the business and have not been inducted into the Hall of Fame yet, I find it distasteful and disrespectful of the quote-unquote Hall of Fame to put somebody in who is undeserving. For example, Al Snow has done as much for this business, whether it's as a trainer, as a performer, as a consultant, a road agent, a booker, and he has essentially no chance he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. You've got people like, let's go with Chris Jericho, who's a current star, who's got accolades at the Yin Yang, not in the Hall of Fame. He should be going in before Hillbilly Jim. You've got people like the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, Paul Orndorff, those guys who at the same time as Hillbilly Jim, they were tag team champions. The Sheik was the world champion. Paul Orndorff was going into matches against Hulk Hogan at the big event in Canada and was legitimately believable to beat Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. And they're in the Hall of Fame. And then he put a guy like Hillbilly Jim in. I'm not knocking Hillbilly Jim. This is not an indictment on Hillbilly Jim. It's an indictment on the process that WWE uses to select who goes into the Hall of Fame. Why is Bam Bam Bigelow not in the Hall of Fame? You know, there's just certain guys who belong there. Raven, the Sandman, and Sabu all belong. Tommy Dreamer all belong in there before Hillbilly Jim. No offense to Hillbilly Jim. It's just my opinion. So I'm going to get off the Hillbilly Jim thing because obviously you know my opinion now. Injury update on Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, you know he had an injury after the NXT TakeOver event where he lost the NXT Championship. And now he is back in the ring training. They said it would be a 6-month injury. It's been 5, and it sounds like he is very close to return. When he returns, I would not put him back in NXT to try to regain his championship. Get him to the main roster. He has got the perfect look to be a force on the main card. And I know they've got tons of talent. It's time to find a way to use that talent and be successful with it and give great storylines and start getting writers who know how to write and stop worrying about pushing the same 6 guys every week. Drew McIntyre could be one of those amazing additions to the main roster. Let's just hope they don't screw it up this time. One of the lesser happy moments this week was Coach, the announcer for Monday Night Raw, has been accused of sexual harassment by a former co-worker at ESPN. Apparently, several people were named in this lawsuit for being inappropriate in the workplace. The coach vehemently denies these allegations. WWE is looking into it and investigating. It sounds as though this young lady had the target of her frustration and ire was a very specific person who was not the coach, that he was just included as another person. And now there is question of, you know, was this really something where these people that she named all were an issue, or was this one guy the issue and she was using those names to lend more credibility to her case? I am not one of those people who's going to bash the victim here. If she had something inappropriate said or done to her, by all means, prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law. However, if he didn't, we live in a society where you're innocent until proven guilty. And WWE hopefully will maintain that and allow Coach to continue his duties until he's proven anything, guilty or innocent. You know, you got to presume innocence in our nation. That's what our government was set up to do. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Hopefully these things go away. Whoever did harm this young lady gets taken care of. And if Coach didn't, hopefully he doesn't have to worry about this for much longer. There was some conversation earlier in the week about whether or not War Games is going to be returning to NXT TakeOver in November. At first, the location of the pay-per-view had advertised that War Games would be returning. That apparently is not the case. WWE is not ready to bring the match back. If I were them, I'd be bringing it to the main card anyways, not to the NXT event. I know that they did it to bring viewership to NXT, but there are other ways to bring viewership to NXT, and there are different match conditions that would be better suited for the main roster. I don't think Vince wants to bring it back because it's not a WWE thing. I think he always has an issue with that. I'll tell you something I have an issue with is I'm looking at the news this week and I see that John Cena, we were talking about him a little earlier in his movie career and his film career. Apparently he's taken more time off after WrestleMania again. So no wonder he doesn't mind missing the show. It's because he knows he's not going to have a storyline coming out of the show because he's going to go take some more time off and go film another movie. I would really like to see wrestlers who show up every single show. Don't get me wrong, John Cena's been doing it for quite a while, and he's been the man for WWE for quite a long time. I'm not knocking John's career, but if you're done, you're done. If he doesn't want to be done, then don't be done. Get in the ring. But don't keep pushing us aside for Hollywood if you want to claim to be a professional wrestler. And I don't want to see another one of these sappy, lovey-dovey interviews where he talks about, oh, I'm winding down, I'm a 40-year-old man. We've got 50 and even, as horrible as it sounds, 60 and 70-year-old people who still get in the ring. I watched Tito Santana go 15 to 17 minutes in May of last year at like 64 years old, and he still looked great. If he can hang and bang, so can John Cena. When I see John Cena putting out all those workout videos where he's jacking up everything you could possibly put on a curling bar, I don't want to hear nonsense about he's too old and he's over the hill and all this other nonsense. No, he's hungry for Hollywood, and he's trying to take time off from WWE to pursue something that doesn't hurt quite as much but pays quite well. That's what that's all about. Very frustrating. The greatest Royal Rumble is going to be coming to Saudi Arabia. WWE is going to be putting on a show over there, and this Royal Rumble is going to feature 50 superstars from both Raw and SmackDown. I would love to see that on like a network special. I don't think they'll do it just because of the name, because they don't want to associate the greatest Royal Rumble with another World Championship opportunity like the one that they had in January. But I'm fascinated to hear about, read about, and hopefully at some point see what they do to book that match. And, you know, good for Saudi Arabia for providing an audience that really appreciates the WWE product. Good for them. I hope it grows the brand even more. Maybe at some point somebody will be brought on board in WWE will help them book better shows, and they might not have to seek out other countries for their support when they get enough support from their American audience. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they're going global, but when you go global and you don't include the other companies that are really established overseas in the design of your expansion, I consider that to be a problem. Like New Japan wants to come to the US, they go through Ring of Honor to do so, and they're doing very well doing it that way. WWE wants to go to the Middle East, or they want to go to China or Japan or something like that, work with one of the big promotions, help them bring you into their audience, and allow them to help you cultivate your brand. Just my opinion. Ric Flair came out this week with something that I thought was fantastic. I know I'm not talking about the rap album. That's a whole nother conversation, and I'm not interested in going into. However, what I am interested in talking about is his claim that as of right now, The Miz is the best heel in the business. Something that The Miz responded to, was very flattered that Ric Flair would say that about him, and I couldn't agree more. The Miz, he can captivate an audience. He can speak in a way that can either get you to love him or hate him. He's organically grown. He was a reality star that was not accepted at first, busted his butt, is in the spot he's in, has not been given the right opportunities to be world champion, only one time in his entire career, which is ridiculous when you consider how hard that guy works and how much he's carried the brand on his shoulders for the better part of the last year and a half. And now getting the rub from one of the, if not the greatest heel of all time, Ric Flair. Just awesome read. WrestleMania plans for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, they're up in the air right now. It looks like originally they had planned for Zayn and Owens to face each other, but it seems too much like Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens from last year. So now the conversation is they may put the two of them into the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal instead. I'm not a huge fan of that idea. I think that's horrible. I think you need to put them in a high-profile match, not this nonsense. But if you have a situation where you put them into the Battle Royal, I'm satisfied if it comes down to just those two at the end and they have 10 minutes to work with each other and give us something of substance and quality. If you just throw them out there and have them eliminate each other and you pretty much wasted two of your best talents on the show, that bothers me. That's something I'm not interested in seeing. So hopefully WWE knows how to do what they need to do, and they do the right thing here, and they book them either in a match between each other or do that ahead of time and get them into something else that matters. I would suggest putting them into some form of a ladder match if you're not going to give the ladder match to the cruiserweights. That's just my opinion. That's all the time we have for this episode. Make sure you check back with us next episode where we'll run down all the latest news and rumors, and we'll launch the final round of the greatest superstar of the Monday Night Wars tournament. Make sure you get in right now. It's the Final Four. Cast your vote. We're in the semifinals for that at FroWrestling.com. Make sure if you have questions, comments, or concerns, you get them into the Fro Wrestling Sound-Off line at 267-642-1160. Special thanks, as always, out to BenSound.com and PurplePlanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects that we use in today's show. Pro Wrestling Podcast, as always, brought to you by Beazle Games, which is a new game that makes family game night just a blast. It's a game called Sketchy People, where you get to showcase your artistic side by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen and grabbing a copy. This is like almost like a Pictionary and Chutes and Ladders kind of thing, all combined and thrown into one. Check it out. Very cool game. Go to frowrestling.com to pick up your copy. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. When you call, ask for Mark. He'll take great care of you. He's a great guy. I have personal experience with him. Top quality work for all your skee-ball, pinball, and arcade needs. If you're looking for your next career move and you're considering college or university life or something that you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our other website at www.frolifeplanning.com, where we give you consultation on all your higher education needs, because Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.sportsjunkies101.com for my latest articles on the world of professional wrestling, or shoot over to the In Fro's Corner tab on frowrestling.com and check out our newest and latest editorial pieces, all there for your reading pleasure. Until next time, everybody, take care and have a great night.
Bye.